Hi everyone, it's Lynn Dion here from Pink Whisper Designs. Today I thought we'd make a couple of beautiful pastel springtime cards. We're going to be using a beautiful stencil from Tim Holtz, and if you stick around to the end, I'll show you a third bonus card that I made using some of the leftovers. So let's go ahead and get started. So this is the beautiful stencil from Tim Holtz. This is from Stampers Anonymous. And the name of this is called the Bouquet Layering Stencil. We're going to be using this along with some Strathmore Bristol Smooth 100-pound cardstock. And I've gone ahead and cut this to about 3.5 inches by about 9 inches. And you just need it big enough to fit the stencil on here. I'm grabbing a little bit of purple tape and I'm taping this stencil to my cardstock. Now using shaded lilac and wilted violet and my little sponge dauber, I'm going to start applying some ink. And I'm applying the lighter color first. And I'm just going to fill in the petals with that lighter shade. Then I'm going to grab the dauber for the wilted violet and I'm just going to kind of pounce that color on. I'm just kind of like tapping it on. And then I'm going to go back with that lighter color and I'm going to blend that out. Now, if you get too much of that darker color on your lighter color dauber, you can always pat it off onto a paper towel, or later you'll see me patting it off onto a baby wipe just to remove some of that excess color. So you can clean these off a little bit on a baby wipe. So now here you can see me blending out those colors, and you can go back in with some shadowing. Here I'm adding another layer of that darker color and then blending that out. I want to keep the tips of the petals the lightest here. And I know I've mentioned before, but these sponge daubers are from We Are Memory Keepers, and they come in a set. You get the box and you get half circular daubers and half triangular daubers. So I bought 2 sets. And did 1 full box of the circles and 1 full box of the triangular ones. I haven't used the triangular ones too much yet. But to label these, what I did is I printed out all the names of my Distress Oxide ink pads onto a piece of copier paper. Then I just cut those into strips. And here now I'm using that scattered straw to do the centers of all of my flowers. And so, yeah, I just cut those labels into strips and then I just taped them on with regular Scotch tape. So each one is labeled and they're in the little acrylic cases that you get with the daubers, which is really nice because you have a nice little storage system. And here's a quick peek at that. So now what I'm going to do here is go to the dried marigold and the ripe persimmon. And to do this second style of flower, I'm going to use these 2 colors. Again, starting with that lighter color, then just kind of pouncing on a little bit of that persimmon color. And then I'm going to blend those out as well. And it's a little hard to tell what everything is on this stencil, so don't be too fussy about it. I kind of like when some areas blend into others, so it's not necessary to keep everything exactly perfect. If you do want to keep it perfect, you can always mask it off with a little bit of purple tape or just a piece of scrap paper, but I wasn't too worried about that. I kind of like the look of it just kind of blending into each other. So now with Twisted Citron and Mowed Lawn, I'm going to go ahead and do some of the leaves here. So I'm trying to keep in a very pastel springy kind of a look. And the reason for this is a friend of mine had said, oh, you know, whenever she uses the Tim Holtz items, she always feels like it has to be kind of grungy or steampunky. And now I'm using the peacock feathers here just to kind of fill in. So I said to her, I just don't think it always has to be that way. I think it can be whatever you want. Tim Holtz always says, you know, the makers kind of determine what something is going to look like. So adds your personal style to the things that he creates and designs for us. So that's what kind of led me to wanting to do this, to create some just fun, very feminine pastel cards out of this. And there you can see me just blending things out a little bit. Where I did get some overlap, I went back in with the daubers and just kind of cleaned things up a little bit. Now, I didn't want to let all that ink go to waste on the stencil here, so I'm spritzing it with my Distress sprayer, just with water. I'm flipping it over onto another piece of cardstock here. This is, again, the Bristol Smooth. And I'm just patting that color on. I just kind of wanted to see what I would end up with. But at the end, I will show you that I do make a card out of what the leftovers from that. So now I'm going to use spun sugar and festive berries. And I'm going to do the same thing. And I'll just show you one flower here just so you can see the blending on the pink. Everything else on this is the exact same colors I used on the purple card. I kind of, my idea here was to make a set of cards, either as a gift for somebody or just, I don't know, I just kind of wanted everything to coordinate together. So you could do pink, purple, you know, all the different colors if you wanted to do a set of cards for somebody. Yellow would be really pretty as well. So now here you can see that I'm spritzing that leftover again, and I'm going to flip it over on that same piece of cardstock and blot that out. And I'll show you again at the end what I did with that. So I'm going to let that dry. So now I want to add a little border here. So I'm using the Sizzix 3D Impresslits. This is the Scallop one, and it does die cut and emboss at the same time. Now you'll want to use the directions for your specific machine to run that through. This is the craft stock. This is the Metallic Confections cardstock from Tim Holtz. And I'm using the pink and the purple from this collection. So I went ahead and ran it through my Spellbinders Platinum 6 machine. But again, you will want to use the directions for your specific machine. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut this cardstock down. I do want this panel to be 5.5 inches long. That will fit on my standard A2 size card. And I'm just going to trim off both sides of this, just right up to that white edge there. And I'm going to save those leftovers for something else. So I have everything trimmed down. I'm going back to the peacock feathers, and I'm going to just add a little bit of a highlight all the way around these two panels. So again, I'm just using my little sponge dauber, and I'm going to add a light touch all the way around and a little bit darker on the four corners. This is just going to bring your eye into the center a little bit more. So now I'm going to take my 1/8 inch score tape and each of these little embossed panels, and I'm going to add some of that 1/8 inch score tape right down the edge here. And I'm going to attach these to these two floral panels. So I'm just removing the backing, and I'm going to center it on this panel. On the card, it will be on the right side of the panel. And I'm going to do the same thing for the pink one. So now I want to add some foam mounting tape to the back of these to pop these up on my card. And as I've said before, I'm a little bit frugal with my foam mounting tape, so I do take the time just to cut it into little squares. And I've removed the backing, and I'm going to place that on the front of my card. It just makes your foam tape go a lot further, and it also works just fine. As long as you put enough on there, it'll pop it up nice and it'll go through the mail nice as well. So now I'm going to do the same thing with this second one here. Just leaving a little white edge along the side there, along the left side. So now I've got these beautiful butterflies, and one cuts out the solid portion and one cuts out the detail. And so there's two different versions of the butterfly here. Again, this is Sizzix Thinlits, and these are the detailed butterflies, and they're called the mini version. And I'm cutting the solid ones out of the metallic cardstock and the detailed ones out of the white Bristol Smooth cardstock. So I've run that through my machine, and now with the solid pieces, I'm keeping them in the dies and I'm flipping them over on my base plate. So the cutting edge is facing up. I'm using some purple tape to tack these down so they don't move. Then I'm taking my embossing mat and my embossing plate. And this is for the Spellbinders Platinum 6 machine. So again, you would want to use the directions on your specific machine. I ran it through a couple of times. And what that's going to do is give us a nice embossing on these butterflies. And you'll see that here in a second. I'm just removing that tape, and it does get pretty well stuck to this, so just take your time removing that. And now you can see how beautiful these butterflies are. Now these are the detailed ones, so I'm going to go ahead and use my Tim Holtz pick tool and just pop those out. And then I'm going to take my Nuvo Aqua Shimmer pen, and I'm just going to add sparkle all over the tops of these butterflies, and that's going to give them a beautiful clear shimmer. So I'm going to let those dry, and then I'm going to add these, connect these two together using the Gina K Connect glue, and I'm just adding a little glue down the center of each of these butterflies, and then I'm going to press those into place. And with that embossing on that lower butterfly, it makes it really easy to line these up. And I'm going to place an acrylic block on that and let that dry. So now what I wanted to do is add a little embellishment to each of my butterflies. So I'm using the Heirloom Roses from the Tim Holtz Ideology collection. And these are just a cream colored rose. And I'm going to go ahead and place one in the center of each of the butterflies. But I wanted them to match my card. So I'm going to go ahead and use my Alchohol Pearl Inks. And I'm using two colors, Enchanted and Villainous. And you do want to make sure you shake these really well, because you can see on the bottom there, that's where all the beautiful shimmer is. So I shook these up, and then I'm just going to place about a couple of drops on each of these roses. And I'm using a damp paintbrush, and I'm just going to spread that ink around a little bit. And it will drop down into the crevices, which I like that. It looks nice. It adds a little bit of depth down there inside the rose. So you just want to kind of brush that all over. And since these are alcohol inks, they're permanent inks, so this will dry permanent. It won't rub off. It won't bleed or anything. And now I'm going to go ahead and do the purple one. And again, I'm doing the same thing. I cleaned off my brush really well. It is a damp brush. It's just a little easier if it's damp. And then I'm just kind of brushing that in as well. And do make sure you clean off your paintbrush really well when you're done, because it is a permanent ink. You want to get that off, and you don't want your brush to dry hard. So now with the Sizzix Thinlits from Tim Holtz again, I'm going to be using the word Celebrate. I'm die cutting Celebrate out of the pink and the purple metallic paper, and then I'm using my Nuvo glue pen, and this has a chisel tip on it. And I've been finding this really easy to glue all of my little words together. So what I've done here is I die cut 3 out of the Bristol Smooth cardstock and 1 out of the metallic cardstock. And I'm going to glue all these together and stack these up. And I like to start in the center. I kind of bow the sentiment a little bit, and I place the center down first, and then I kind of use my tweezers just to kind of squeeze things into place here. You can see that gives us a nice thick embellishment. So now I did decide that I thought there was too much white area on these cards. So I'm going to use my purple tape, and I'm going to mask this off so I can do a little bit of spattering here. And I know these pieces of purple tape I keep on the side of my craft mat at all times. You may have seen them in videos before. I test my gel pens on them. You can see there's some tape stuck to that. So it's kind of a mess, but I reach for them often and I like to keep them right on my mat. So I've got these two pieces of purple tape, and now I've just taken a little bit of the Peacock Feathers ink. I put it on my glass mat, spritzed it with a little bit of water, and then I'm spattering it with my paintbrush. And that's going to fill in the white areas of that a little bit better. I thought that just kind of brought things together a little bit more. So now you can curl up the wings on your little butterflies. Just use your fingers, just kind of reach in there and curl those up a little bit. Now I'm just laying out the card. And you can see my little rose is dry and it's just beautiful. So I'm going to attach that with the Gina K Connect glue. And this is a super strong glue, so this is going to work really well on the paper and also on the little embellishment here. And then to do the sentiment, I was going to use the Connect glue, but I went back to the chisel tip. And I'm going to just apply that again because it comes out kind of a light blue. It dries clear and it's not thick. It doesn't seep out from underneath when you're done. And you can be really generous with it. And you don't have any of those problems of any of the glue kind of poking out afterwards. Because that's half the battle. A lot of times I spend more time cleaning up the excess glue than I actually do of, attaching it. So I'm going to add a little bit of that Connect glue on this, underneath this little rose, and attach that to my butterfly. And I did the same thing for the other card. Now I did decide to add sequins. These are the aquamarine sequins, and these are from Pretty Pink Posh. And these are the tiny little sequins. I'm not sure what the size is, but they're really tiny. And I'm going to just kind of determine where I want to place those. I was trying to mimic that spattering that we did with something a little bit sparkly. Now I'm only going to put them on the pink card. I couldn't decide. I couldn't decide which way I liked it better. So I did one with and one without. Now using the Silhouette Pick Me Up tool, this has like a tacky end on it and it will help you pick up these little gems and embellishments, and it makes it a lot easier to glue them down. So here you can see my completed card, and you can see those little sequins there and that beautiful rose. And again, you can just pop these little butterfly wings up, just kind of roll them up with your fingers a little bit, and that beautiful embossing that we have. And I have to say, this metallic paper just embosses so beautifully. And this is the one without the sequins, so you can let me know what you think there, which one you like better. And then this was the leftover piece that I had. So I'm using these frames. These are from Tim Holtz. These are called the Stack Baroque frames. And I took that second largest one, and I'm using my Spun Sugar Distress Oxide ink, and I'm just going to add some of that all the way around the edges of this. And I die cut another one of those pink butterflies, and I embossed it the same way we did before. And I'm just going to curl that up just a little bit. And that metallic paper curls up very nicely. And then going back to the sentiments, I'm going to grab the word love. I'm going to stack those up and glue them together just like we did before. I painted another one of the roses in the same pink that we used before. And this just makes a cute little card, just a little fun note card. And this little note card measures 3.5 by 4 7/8. So that would be an A1 size card. The others are the A2 size standard note cards that are 4.25 by 5.5. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to visit me at pinkwhisperdesigns.com. And I hope you're all staying safe and healthy. And I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.